Moving on, we have the idea of string comparisons and can I call them primitive data type comparisons? The example we're going to see has characters, but we could do this with variables of integer or double or floating point types as well. Previously, we had used the comparison operator, the equals equals, to let us know whether or not the value stored here inside of one variable is the same as the value stored here inside of another variable. So before we get into what we're seeing here in the output window, here I'm using again the spacer just so that we can see these different outputs here. They help draw your eye, they help draw the eye of the user and the next potential developer in the chain to what it is you want them to see. I have a bunch of characters, test 1, 2, test 3, and test 4. I have values A, B, lowercase, and A and B, uppercase. I also have a bunch of strings here. I've got Big Bird and lowercase Big Bird, Dr. Teeth, and Dr. Teeth again, just so we can see if they are the same. So the first test I'm doing here is in if-else to see if the characters are the same or if the characters are different. So I'm comparing test 1 and test 2, which is lowercase a to lowercase b, and what I would expect to see here is the output. The characters are different because a does not equal b, right? So that works out well so far. The next group, what we're going to see, that's here inside of these two spacers, we're going to test if 1 equals test 3. And in this case, we're testing if lowercase a is the same as uppercase a. And you can see the output over here. These characters are different. This is something that you do need to keep in mind when you are developing applications as we go down the road. Hit Y to continue, for example, or would you like to continue Y or N? Those kinds of considerations. Uppercase Y and lowercase y are not the same character. Uppercase N and lowercase n are not the same character. So this is just me trying to hammer that point home, that uppercase and lowercase letters are not the same, but you can use the equals equals comparison operator to compare them. So here are some strings. Now remember, with a string, we cannot use the equals equals operator because we're not comparing the value of test string 1 to test string 1. We're comparing the actual location of test string 1 to test string 1. So in this, the example we see here between lines 43 and 52, we're testing the location of test string 1 to the location of test string 2. And actually that little, the cheater window, the flag that comes up here is telling us that, yeah, before you run it, buddy, this is going to be the same. So we can see that right here, that these strings are the same. It's not that the strings are the same, it's that the actual variable is the thing that we are testing here, the location of test string 1. So here in our very last example set, we need to use the dot equals nomenclature to find out if the strings are the same. So just as a reminder, before we go and click through to those, we have Big Bird and Big Bird, uppercase and lowercase, and we have two strings that are exactly the same, but they are in fact different variables. So that's the things that we're going to test down here. So first and foremost, we're going to use the dot equals. The way this works is, so here inside of our if statement, we need to have another set of parens. Just so you're aware, this will end in 2 parentheses. That is absolutely the case. I know for some of us, this is going to dig up, deep and terrible memories from like high school, but we really do need to match parentheses. So if I have one open parenthesis here, I need to have one closed parenthesis here. If I have two open parentheses, 1, 2 here, I need to have 2 here. If you come across an error that looks a little bit something like this, I'll tell you it's going to say, there it is. Java is going to tell you end parenthesis expected, and it's going to tell you the line where it's expected. Java and Replit are really good at being able to help you determine where those errors are. So string 1 dot equals, and then here in parentheses, string 2. This is the one we are going to test. This actually goes through and calls what's known as a method. This has a very, here in session 3, it's going to be very complicated, but later on when we see it in session 12, it won't be quite as complicated for you. But it goes through a very complicated procedure where the dot equals actually compares the characters in the string B to B, I to I, R or G rather to G, and actually it's going to have to stop right here after that first letter because capital B is not the same as lowercase b. So what happens right here is we can see the output right here. Big Bird with a capital B and Big Bird with a lowercase b are not the same. What I wanted to do was throw this little piece of an example here. What I'll tell you is this comes to fruition in 2 more weeks. So for those of you who have watched all the way through to this part of the video, congratulations, because you have the keys to a challenge problem in 2 more weeks. We have the test1 dot equals ignore case. Do you want to guess what that does? It ignores uppercase and lowercase, and as long as the letters are the same character, they're going to go. So this is going to test Big Bird with a capital BB and Big Bird with a lowercase bb, and because we're ignoring case, this is going to come back as true, and we can see it down here with returning as true. So strings do not work the same way with the equals equals operator that we see up here, the comparison operator. It does not work the same way as integers or floating point or double or short or long or character. We cannot use the comparison operator. We have to use dot equals, or we have to use one of our more specific dot equals, and we can actually use dot equals ignore case, and there's actually a bunch of these. They are listed here in chapter 3, and they are good to know, and we will come back and see those again, like I said, with the program challenges later on.